Well, thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here at the Urban League. It's a great day in Baltimore as we continue to grow Baltimore and rebuild Baltimore, especially on the west side and all across the city. This is one of the first stops, hopefully, for EDA coming into our city as they continue to roll money into the city. Mr. Assistant Secretary, where? Oh, yeah, okay. Put him on the spot right quick. But on behalf of the Greater Baltimore Urban League, I'm pleased to announce that the Urban League today will be receiving an award from the EDA, and I'm going to leave that up to my great leader out of New York to explain to you all the pieces of that award. So without further ado, we won't talk about how we're going to name the center. We'll name the center a little later on. We're working on a great name. Hopefully I'll be able to announce it before you leave today, and so that as we generate additional resources for the center. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Morial, the President and CEO of the National Urban League, who's here today. This is a grant that's coming through the national office, and we're just one of many affiliates that are participating. Mr. Mark Morial.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, good morning. I am very honored to be here, and I want to thank J. Howard Henderson and Mr. Campbell, the chair of the board, and the team here at the Baltimore Urban League for hosting us this morning. Let me also thank Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, the mayor of this city. I'm so honored to always be with you, Madam Mayor. And the mayor will be speaking shortly. We're also extremely excited and proud that Assistant Secretary of Commerce and the leader of the Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration, Jay Williams, is with us. He is a key member of President Obama's team. He'll also be speaking very shortly. Why are we here today? This is the second important announcement that the National Urban League is pleased to participate in here in Baltimore. Just about 6 weeks ago, we announced officially, and the mayor was with us in Florida this summer, that Baltimore will be the site of the 2016 National Urban League Annual Conference. And that event will bring thousands of visitors to this city and will also involve important job fairs, youth activities for the people and the citizens of the great city of Baltimore, in addition to having a multi-million-dollar economic impact on this city. So we are now in the planning phases, and all eyes will be on Baltimore in the first week of August in 2016. Second, I'm excited to be here today to announce that through a partnership, the National Urban League, the Baltimore Urban League, working with and with the support of the Department of Commerce, with the support of the City of Baltimore, will establish in this location a new entrepreneurship center. That center will be the 13th entrepreneurship center in the Urban League system. That center has a very simple purpose. It is to help small businesses with a focus on businesses owned by people of color, to grow their businesses, to increase their revenues, to create more jobs, and to build the wealth that the community not only needs, but that this community justly deserves going forward. We're excited about this new entrepreneurship center because the services that it will provide will be provided to entrepreneurs here in Baltimore without any fees and without any cost. So how do these centers work? Let me paint a picture of the 12 existing centers around the country. And those centers exist in places like Atlanta and New Orleans, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston, Washington, D.C., to name a few. Each of those centers has historically served about 1,000 small businesses each and every year. Each of those centers has been responsible on average for helping these businesses secure a total of $5 million in additional contracts each year. Each of these centers, on average, has helped to create or save up to 100 new jobs each year. What I'm confident, and I'll challenge Baltimore to beat the numbers at the existing 12 centers. Baltimore, my challenge to you is to be the best and to be the first in the numbers. So we are excited about this announcement today. It is made possible because of the support and because of a grant that Secretary Williams will talk about shortly from the Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration. It is made possible because of a commitment by the mayor to provide the matching funds needed to enable this center to get up and running as soon as possible. Small businesses, Black-owned businesses, are essential to any thriving 21st century urban community. Essential. And there is tremendous will, tremendous initiative, tremendous energy out there in the Baltimore small business community. What we've got to do is open some doors. What we have to do is build some ladders. What we have to do is help these businesses grow, because as they grow, West Baltimore will grow. The city of Baltimore will grow. This community will indeed enhance itself. So we're here to partner with the community to bring these services to this community at this time of promise and challenge in the history of Baltimore. So again, Secretary Williams, let me thank you. Madam Mayor, let me thank you. Jay Howard and your team, let me thank you. And let me ask all of you to give them a real warm round of applause. And I also want to acknowledge the presence, and he'll be speaking later, of Congressman John Sarbanes. We thank him for being here because his support and the support of the Congress is so essential to ensuring that these initiatives have the proper support and the proper funding. So at this time, I'm proud to present the leader of this city, also the President of the United States Conference of Mayors, the Mayor of the great city of Baltimore, Stephanie Rawlings-Blake.
So from one former president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors to the current one, I want to thank you, Mark, for being here. I say it all the time, you're always welcome in Baltimore, and I've been thrilled to be on this journey with the National Urban League to bring the convention, but not just because I think people who don't understand the National Urban League convention don't understand what it is. It's not just a hit it and split it. You're not just, this is a relationship building event, and I was just so proud to be in Florida with you and your membership to celebrate that the National Convention was coming here next summer. I'm thrilled as well because every time when we talked about it, you said we're going to keep rolling out these announcements about great things that are coming to Baltimore as a result of the announcement, and you are a man of your word. So I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank all of the elected officials who are here with us today in person and by representation. Thank you. I want to particularly thank Congressman John Sarbanes, who has been a big supporter of economic inclusion and economic opportunity for Baltimore's family. I want to welcome and thank Assistant Secretary Jay Williams for being here. The Department of Commerce is important to the economic future of our city, and the fact that you are here really signals the Obama administration's commitment to Baltimore's success. So thank you very much. And Jay Howard, we're going to make this happen.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
We're very excited about all of the work that you're doing here at our local Greater Baltimore Urban League. And I also want to thank someone who's been a great partner with me in moving the city's economics forward and economic development forward, and that's the CEO and president of the Baltimore Development Corporation, Bill Cole. Thank you for being here. So before talking about today's announcement, I want to again publicly thank the National Urban League, as I said before, for choosing Baltimore as the site of the National Convention. Your commitment and your faith in our city has helped to affirm my belief that Baltimore will not be defined by the riots and the unrest of April, but how we have come together as a community afterwards. As many of you know, since the unrest in April, we have been joined by many agencies of the federal government with offers of help. They have sought not only to repair the broken pieces directly resulting from the unrest, but also to repair relationships and conditions in West Baltimore and in neighborhoods across our city. With the commitment of the Obama administration, we have had support from former Education Secretary Arne Duncan, as well as Labor Secretary Tom Perez, who has committed over $2 million in funds for training. We're equally excited about the type of positive impact that working with the Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration can have for West Baltimore. So proud that Deputy Secretary Williams is here in Baltimore today as we jointly announce a new tool in our fight against poverty and our efforts to improve the future of West Baltimore. The Entrepreneurship Center at the Greater Baltimore Urban League will offer support for a community that has often been perceived as difficult to reach. You said it's the 13th center for the National Urban League. We're going to make that lucky number 13. And you'd have to know, as soon as you made it a challenge to have the top numbers, well, you know where I was in. There's not too many challenges that I will turn down. So I'll just proclaim right now that our center will be the best center that the country has ever seen. So the support that will be offered to our community will come in the form of seminars on starting a small business or expanding a small business to be held in churches, schools, and recreation centers throughout West Baltimore. These seminars will help to recruit potential entrepreneurs for more in-depth training that they will receive in workshops given right here at the Urban League. The training will cover topics such as marketing and promotion, pricing and purchasing, operations and management, and ways to help existing entrepreneurs to be more profitable. We know that we have a spirit in our community of entrepreneurship, and this is harnessing that history, harnessing that power and our legacy, and really taking it to the next level. The program serves as a way to provide legitimate and legal streams of income for some who have up to now been a part of our city's underground economy. The center brings badly needed resources to dozens of struggling entrepreneurs. These entrepreneurs will not only increase their own incomes, but their own ability to provide for themselves and for their families. They'll be able to leverage their success to create jobs and opportunities for friends, neighbors, and relatives who might otherwise remain unemployed or underemployed. This program will also offer our young people the tools by which they might craft their own enterprise and pursue their dreams in a way up and out of poverty. Additionally, it will provide role models that our young people desperately need, that they can actually see, touch, and emulate. Entrepreneurial spirited men and women hard at work in their own communities and in their own families who can transfer their lessons of hard work, of demanding excellence, and of success to a generation waiting for inspiration and direction. That is why we are glad to join EDA in announcing our joint partnership with the Greater Baltimore Urban League and the National Urban League. Now they have, I know the name, do they want me to say it?
Yes.
Am I the one that's supposed to, am I supposed to reveal? Are you sure?
You can do it.
Are you sure? I don't have to. It
I
can
will
still,
add on to it.
all right, it can still be a secret.
No, go ahead, you can name it.
All right. To establish
It's your money.
the Raymond V. Haysbert Senior Center for Entrepreneurship. I am thrilled to see this center named for an important and distinguished business icon in Baltimore and beyond. In addition to taking Baltimore's Park Sausage Company to listing on the New York Stock Exchange in the early 70s, Mr. Haysbert was a mentor to many. I don't know of any local businessman, any African-American businessman in Baltimore who was not touched by his leadership and by his mentorship. He was the most prominent African-American business leader and started and successfully operated over a dozen enterprises in Maryland. A former Tuskegee Airman, Mr. Haysbert was an active political and civic leader, helping to establish organizations like the Hub and the President's Roundtable. He was a stalwart member and until his death of the chairman of the board of the Greater Baltimore Urban League. We can clap for that. Therefore, I am honored to support the creation of this program in his name that so embodies his spirit and his example, and to share that spirit of entrepreneurship with the West Baltimore community. With this initiative here today, I am hopeful that we will ultimately help produce the Raymond Haysberts of our next generation. I want to thank you all very much, and it is now my pleasure to bring up the man with the check, Assistant Secretary Jay Williams.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me just take a moment to speak about the woman who just preceded me. I have been, for a very long time, an admirer of Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake. From my earliest days of serving as mayor of Youngstown, Ohio, I had an opportunity to watch her ascend from not only her role in city council and being the president of city council, but then taking over the helm of the city at a time of crisis. And knowing firsthand what it's like to lead a city that is often underserved, written off, facing inundated challenges, I've watched her with poise and with grace lead this city through a transformation that is nothing short of seismic. And the most recent test of her leadership, when we saw the unrest in Baltimore and we saw the national lens focus, here was a woman who was selfless in her leadership. And it is not that often where you have an elected official who is in the midst of a crisis, facing all the critical decisions that she has to face as a leader, and then has to make political decisions. And for her to put her city first, I think just speaks volumes for the type of leader that we have here. So Mayor, congratulations. So it is an honor to be here. Mark, thank you for your leadership of the National Urban League. We had a conversation 2 or 3 months ago. And I have lots and lots of conversations with leaders of organizations who are interested in partnering with the Economic Development Administration. We enjoy having those meetings, and each time we have those meetings, we hope that ultimately it will result in a day like this. But there are a number of times where those meetings happen and lots of talk and lots of planning goes on, but we ultimately don't see the organization step up and do the things necessary to allow us to come to a day like this. So to have a conversation 2 or 3 months ago and to then arrive at this day, I think also is a direct reflection of your commitment, your tenacity, the skill of your staff. So again, congratulations for your leadership in allowing this to happen. Congressman, thank you for your support. Mr. Henderson, thank you. Mr. Chairman of the board, it is really, truly exciting to be here. The president is fond of pointing out the fact that that talent is equally distributed across communities in this country. Whether it's West Baltimore, whether it's my hometown of Youngstown, Ohio, places like Gary, Indiana, places that you wouldn't necessarily think the immense talent exists, talent is equally distributed. But he points out the opportunity to deploy that talent is not. And it is a shame that in the country that is the most advanced economic system on the face of the planet, in the country that heralds and hearkens to its democracy, that we have allowed for far too long individuals to be defined by the zip code in which they reside. A zip code can often predict your quality of life, your longevity, the educational attainment that you will have, and in a country that prides itself on individualism and effort, that is something that we don't find acceptable. So today, as has been said earlier, is about making a commitment to this community. And the commitment that we're making to this community is indeed just a down payment. The $300,000 that the Economic Development Administration is providing to help start this Entrepreneurship Center, again, is just a fraction of the amount that ultimately this administration has committed to this community. And yes, it is absolutely responding to the unrest that occurred in April, but it's about the longer commitment that the President has made to make sure that underserved, underrepresented communities across this country have been given that opportunity. And that's what the Economic Development Administration has been doing for 50 years. The only federal agency whose mission is specifically geared toward economic development and helping create economic opportunity, but not just in and of itself, but in communities that have been underserved and underrepresented for decades. The fact that you pointed out that this will be the 13th Entrepreneurship Center, I think speaks to the breadth of the issue and the challenges that exist. And the fact that I did see the mayor, her head perked up when you said, I'm going to challenge Baltimore to be the first and the best of all the entrepreneurship centers. When you lay a challenge like that before a woman like Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, you can rest assured that challenge is going to be exceeded. So it is a privilege for us to be here. As you talked about, small businesses, minority-owned businesses are the lifeblood of this economy. We have seen the renaissance of the U.S. economy in ways that we haven't seen in decades. When this president took office, we were facing the greatest economic decline this country had seen outside of the Great Depression. And being from Youngstown, Ohio, Mayor, you can attest to this. While we've seen recovery across the board, there are still too many pockets in Baltimore, in Detroit, in Indianapolis that aren't seeing that renaissance. And it's because we haven't focused and invested and provided the opportunity to those businesses that are the lifeblood. So this Entrepreneurship Center, SIP will do just that. We will make sure that those opportunities are granted. So congratulations, thank you for your leadership, thank you for the ongoing success in this community, and again, this is just a down payment. So we will be here for the long haul. Congratulations on all that you've done. Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along. I like this. But before I move forward, I'd like to say that this cannot happen in Baltimore. We can't be number one without the great support of the people that are in the room. And it's going to take all of us working towards that goal. But before I introduce our next speaker, I would just like to recognize a few folks who are in the room and acknowledge some that are not in the room. Certainly want to recognize those folks who represent the West Side. And I want to recognize Delegate Barbara Robinson up front here, Delegate Antonio Hayes, Councilman Nick Mosby. I know I'm going to miss someone, so scream out if I miss you. I also want to recognize those folks who will make this happen, and that will be folks like Bill Cole in the back of the room, Stanley Tucker back there. We'll be coming to you, Stanley, for some financing. You all know Stanley, right? Turn around, hold your hand up, Stanley. There we go, Stanley Tucker back there, okay. I also want to recognize those folks who represent the foundation community. I want to see Bob Emery. Bob, you're the only one in the room. We'll be going to Bob for some money also. Raise your hand, Bob. Okay, got him over there. Did I leave anyone out? Okay, good. I also would like to know that in order for this to work, it requires a great deal of leadership at the congressional level. So we have those kind of folks who represent Baltimore. We have Senator Cardin's office represented here today. I think they're here. If not, I know I spoke to Senator Cardin a couple of days ago. We were over on Coppins campus talking about what was that, gun violence in the community. He had a little session over there. And I also spoke to Senator McCuskey's office. They couldn't be here, but they sent, who here? Oh, there we are. I didn't see Senator. Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, and of course, Congressman Cummings, who's at somewhere else, but we have his chief of staff, Vernon Sims, in the back there. Vernon, thank you for coming. And do I have any SBA representatives here? Who's from the SBA? I thought so. Oh, there they are. Okay, good. We're gonna put all these folks on the spot so we can make sure that we make this thing number one, okay? So we're all number one. But speaking for our congressional delegation, certainly we couldn't have picked a better person to join us today than Congressman John Sarbanes. John has been out on the front lines of fighting for the rights of others for a long time. So whenever I'm in Washington, and I'm up there quite often, I stop by his office and he says, welcome, come on in. So whenever we come there with Baltimore issues, John Sarbanes is there. Thank you, John.
Good morning, everybody. This is exciting. This is very exciting. I'm glad to be here on behalf of the Maryland Congressional delegation. First off, let me acknowledge, as others have done, our mayor, Stephanie Rawlings-Blake. I think that Mayor Williams, I'm going to call him Mayor Williams because once a mayor, always a mayor. And when he speaks, you can tell he's speaking as a mayor. But as Mayor Williams said, the mayor, our mayor, made a difficult decision, but she showed that the city is in her heart. And I want to congratulate her for her service to the city over the last few years, and thank you for your incredible leadership. I also want to salute Mark Morale. What incredible news to hear that the Urban League is coming to Baltimore in 2016. Thank you for that decision, and I know it represents an affirmation, a confidence in Baltimore at this difficult time, and we certainly appreciate that. Howard Henderson, thank you for your leadership here of the Greater Baltimore Urban League, a beautiful resource for this community and for this city. Again, we have representatives from the two senators, Vernon Sims, who's here from Congressman Cummings' office. As proud as you are of Congressman Cummings, and I know this is his district, for his service to our country, I'm incredibly proud to serve with him in the United States Congress. I've had that opportunity now for almost 10 years. The mayor talked about role models. He's certainly a role model to me and many others in Congress, and it's a privilege to be here this morning in his district. People have talked about the days of unrest, the challenge that faced Baltimore in April. I sometimes think of those as the days of awareness, in the sense that it kind of woke up a lot of people to the challenges being faced by Baltimore, to some of these pockets, as Mayor Williams said, of deep poverty here in our own city, and of course we see that across the country. So it's about the solutions and the conversation we have about addressing that challenge. And obviously this amazing partnership between the Economic Development Administration and the Greater Baltimore Urban League, the National Urban League, and the City of Baltimore. And thank you, Mayor, for assembling the support to bring the matching funds to bear so that this grant would be available. This partnership is an example of stepping up into the challenge being faced, not just by the City of Baltimore, but an example of stepping up into the challenges faced by our country and making sure that urban centers are as thriving and vibrant as they can possibly be. You know, President Obama made a decision, a very active decision, after these troubles we had back in April, that he wasn't going to just treat it as another challenge. He was going to treat it as a major challenge and focus of his administration. And what was incredible was to see showing up every few days top-level officials from the Obama administration. I was at events with Tom Perez, the Secretary of Labor here in Baltimore, Secretary Vilsack from the Department of Agriculture. I came to the library over on the west side. Arnie Duncan, the Secretary of Education, the National Secretary of Education, was here on repeated occasions. The Attorney General, within just about a couple of weeks of taking the job, was here in Baltimore to host a roundtable to look at issues of justice and the criminal justice system. And today we have the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Commerce, Jay Williams, with us. This does not happen in every city every day. This shows a commitment on the part of the President and his administration to really stepping up behind the challenges that Baltimore faced. And we're really, really proud of that commitment. I want to thank President Obama, and I want to thank the Deputy Secretary on behalf of Baltimore for his commitment. Mark Morale has already put down the challenge. Let's get more than 100 jobs created here, and I know the mayor, as Mayor Williams said, the mayor will take that challenge, and she'll blow right through that 100 number, and we'll get to a higher level. Entrepreneurship and small business is really the lifeblood of any thriving community, and so it will be here in Baltimore. And the Urban League is really the perfect vehicle for bringing these dollars and resources to bear. These 12 centers around the rest of the country that have already shown success, I think that bodes well for what will happen here in Baltimore. And a lot of times when you want to bring resources in to a city or to a community, the challenge can be figuring out what's the way to bring it in that's the most efficient and impactful. And it's no surprise to me that these dollars are coming through the Urban League, given the reputation of the Urban League and the success and the experience that it can demonstrate in getting results. And so it's a partnership that makes a lot of sense. I'll close with a couple observations. The mayor talked about many benefits, obviously, of this Entrepreneur Center that are going to be created. But the one that caught my ear was this idea of role models. An entrepreneur that gets that support to be able to take their idea and turn it into action and build a business and put their sweat equity into it and their creativity and their imagination. When they are successful, they become the most powerful role model that can exist in a community. And the best role models are the ones who do well. They come from the community, they stay in the community, and they give back to the community. That's what this Entrepreneurship Center is going to create. And there's no better role model, and so it's fitting that it's being named for him. No better role model as a community leader, as someone who started a business small and then took it to great heights. And that's the American success story than Ray Haysbert. So to name this for him makes absolutely perfect sense. Thank you all for your participation in this. Thank you to the Greater Urban League. Thank you to the Economic Development Administration. And thank you to the people of Baltimore who know that they're the best, that this is going to be a success, and that Baltimore is going to continue to rise. Thank you all very much.
We'll jointly close it out.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, let me just see if any members of the media might have any questions before we close. And we want to thank the members of the media for coming out. And we also have an active effort to communicate this announcement through the National Urban League social media assets. So follow us on Twitter @NatUrbanLeague. Say it, @NatUrbanLeague. So all you Twitterers, make sure you follow us. But are there any questions from members of the media? If there are none, I'll yield to my colleague J. Howard Henderson. But just thank all of you. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Let's get started. J. Howard?
Before we close, just want to say I really appreciate members of the community coming out, but it's going to require all of us really working together to make this happen. And we will be getting some information out immediately as to when the center will be officially open, the staffing patterns, and our first activities that will be kicking off. So stay in tune. You can follow us on www.bul.org. I never can remember my Twitter account, but I know we got one somewhere. I'm not much of a tweeter, or whatever they call it. I'm supposed to be one of those, but I don't do a lot of it. But before I go, I would be remiss if I didn't really ask you all to give a big welcome to my chairman of my board who joined us today, Mr. Clarence Campbell, who is the area president for Wells Fargo. A lot of people don't know Clarence. Stand up, Clarence. So, the area president of Wells Fargo. So when you're doing business, do business with my friends. Okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't supposed to make an announcement. But thank you so much for coming. Have a good day.